Cash One Pawn, Missoula's #1 pawn shop.
You want money? We got money. You need money? We got money. We're cash.
Do yourself a favor and make Cash One Pawn part of your online shopping habits. Cash One Pawn has an awesome online inventory, everything from firearms to power tools to speaker equipment to jewelry. Visit Cash One Pawn today.
Cash One Pawn.
8720 Roller Coaster Road, CashOnePawn.com.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Town Pump. Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
Well, we love new stuff around here at Skyline Sports, and we've had a new football season coming down the pipe here on the horizon. And now, as of earlier today, we're launching a new series featuring a couple of the ace reporters for Scripps Sports. They work for MTN Montana Television Network, Kyle Hansen and Grace Lawrence. Talked to Kyle a little bit earlier today. Grace is just getting done with her duties there covering the Bobcats in Bozeman. So excited to do this. Basically, the entry point here is both these reporters do a great job covering their respective teams and the Big Sky Conference as a whole. They're on TV every Saturday. There's so much prep that they do, though, that probably doesn't make it onto the TV. Grace, I guess to start there, how much Kyle says he has like 10 to 12 hits prepared, and you usually only get like 4 or 5. How many do you usually have prepared on a given Saturday?
I would say the exact same thing, about 10 to 12. And when you're covering at least one of the teams every single week, they stack up. So you could have, gosh, like he was saying, 10 to 15, especially towards the end of that season when you're just waiting for a certain person you prepped on to score a touchdown or to have a pick or something. So I'm right there with him, about 10 to 12 per team. And then you're kind of thinking ahead to questions you might want to get in, certain things, the way things are looking for a game. So those are going through your head as well.
That part seems like the most high pressure part of your job. After a big game, trying to get somebody on the sidelines. You guys both do such a great job, and I don't know how you do it. But I mean, just tell us about just the procedure. Like you're, especially like during a rivalry game or something, right? A home win, everybody's on the field. You're trying to find Brent Vegan. At least he's huge, so that that at least helps you. But I mean, how do you go about like going to get that guy and executing that interview? That seems kind of stressful.
Yeah, I always joke that Coach Vegan finds me first because when you're 5'4", it's hard to
Right.
find him over those linemen. But yeah, but he's so great. Bill Lamberty, I only was really conducting post-game interviews with Montana State last season. So the amazing SID from MSU, I'm texting him throughout the game. Vegan is great at halftime, and the opposing coaches, they know I'm gonna come find them. So that's really great. When players and walk-off interviews, I think that is the most stressful situation. My favorite memory from last year was my post-game walk-off at Davis. The Bobcats looked like they had sealed up the game. I'm talking with my producer. We already have the guy from offense we want, the guy from defense we want, and then it got crazy, as you know, in that third and that fourth quarter. And I kind of, McCade O'Reilly has that amazing interception. And I kind of was like, all right, I got to go find McCade and interview him. And I went up to him on the sidelines probably 2 minutes after he had that pick. And I was just like, can you come do the interview? And I could tell he was still out of breath. Adrenaline was high. And he was like, maybe in a few minutes. And I was like, well, I kind of need you right now before we go to break. And he was so amazing. They all are so amazing. And he ran across that field with me to the camera. I got those questions in. But yeah, it's connecting with the SID, texting them who the players you want are. And then I don't really have any security detail or anything like they do at the highest level. So it is up to me on the sideline, if they go in for a victory formation, going to find them and grabbing them, especially at Adam Jones walk-off in the Brawl of the Wilds. And I was trying to fend off people that wanted to get on the camera and everything. So those are some great memories towards the end of last season. But it is you have to love a fast-paced environment if you want to be on the sidelines, especially in those big games.
I mean, stressful, but also probably so fun, right? I mean, get some of your best content in those situations as well. We'll come back to sort of the procedure of this and some of the maybe storylines that didn't make the air from last year. But we got to talk about the here and now. Montana State announced 6 captains earlier today. And I think that just analyzing these choices, tells you a lot about this 2025 football team. The one thing that Tom Stuber and I have talked a ton about so far is that this team seems like the two things that I really noticed, from the Big Sky kickoff, media days, and then some of these early fall camp interviews is one, these guys are well aware of the storylines that they lost all these great seniors, and they're kind of like, well, we're pretty good, and we're ready to show the world that we're pretty good, and also though just different personalities, right? I mean, like Paul Brott's a funny guy, and Kenneth Iden's like he's a talkative guy that seems to really love promoting the cats, and Caden Dowler's such a thoughtful guy, and all these different captains they're a lot different than Tommy Mellott and Brody Grebe. Let's just say that. I mean, Tommy, for all of his great traits, he never really smiles. He's just Mr. Stoic. He's up there. He's so serious all the time. And Brody Grebe kind of the same way, kind of an understated type of guy. So it seems like this group of captains has some fun personalities. That's probably going to make your job pretty fun this fall.
Oh, definitely. Today at practice too, we got them all afterwards, all six guys, and that was kind of what I noticed walking away from those interviews. I mean, guys we've interviewed tens of hundreds of times before, but just so outgoing and so funny. And we find ourselves laughing as a media unit for all of them when they were going today. And I think the biggest thing is the team votes on it. So you have a sophomore captain and everything. The first since Tommy was named it a few years ago, but it's just really cool to see the team's insight. And I mean, Adam was saying earlier today, it shows that you can have an instant impact if you really put your head down and go to work. And those captains took a lot from the previous six captains from last year. We were sure to ask about, the guys that they're coming in and kind of those shoes they have to fill and the things they took away from them as well. So, yeah.
Grace Lawrence joined us on the Big Sky Breakdown. She is from KBZK in Bozeman, as well as Scripps Sports and the MTN Montana Television Network. Our Big Sky Breakdown proudly presented in part by Ryan Miller and Coburn Law. Ryan and Miller, happy to welcome Abigail Coburn to the fold. She's an ace in criminal defense, and Ryan Miller and Coburn remains your go-to when it comes to anything from medical malpractice to wrongful death, personal injury, or DUI. Visit them online, rmcattorneys.com. For those that haven't heard this news, Paul Brott, as we mentioned, Kenneth Iden, Adam Jones, JT Reed, Caden Dowler, and Titan Fleischman, the six captains for Montana State. So the other thing that stands out here is just you got so many guys on the fronts, and I think that's the thing that I keep saying on my ESPN show and on this podcast. There's a lot of question marks around the Cats. Certainly when you lose the National Player of the Year and he's your quarterback, how can you not have some questions? But I think that the Cats have such a solid foundation that starts with on the offensive and defensive fronts. That's sort of revealed in, multiple captains on the offensive line, multiple captains on the defensive line. So how much do you think that's been sort of a standout storyline? Is just the prowess that they return in the trenches?
Oh, definitely. And just to start, I mean, one of my favorite storylines, I know a lot of people probably weren't watching second halves all the time of Montana State last season, but they quite frankly were building such leads that these twos and threes return way more experience than you could even realize. Special teams as well, with how much action those guys saw there. But I think that is such a big storyline, and they were playing into January with, your Tommy Mellotts, your Marcus Weirs, and they were taking from that. But just like you're saying, I think at this level, it all comes down to the trenches. I think that has been such a standout point of this team the past few years. And it doesn't matter who they lose because, I mean, they were just saying in fall camp media a couple weeks ago, we got two All-Americans waiting behind the other All-Americans that are departing. So I think that kind of sums it up. And, you are your lines. And I think this defensive line, first off, shout out because they put me through a workout this fall camp. So just a great crew. But I think they return so much talent, and I call it like a hockey lineup. That's how they, funnel guys in and out on those sidelines. They are extremely deep. I think this offensive line is extremely deep. I'm excited for that first depth chart to come out leading into the Oregon game because how it's going to shape up, who's going to end up at guard, tackle, the way they're going to put the best five out there. And there's more than five guys that are ready and prepared. I mean, we saw it last season when they started the season with a couple of injuries and shifted around. They had no issue with that. So I'm really excited to see how they shape up and the damage they're going to be able to do. I know people are talking a lot about, opposing quarterbacks they might be going up against, but if that defensive line can get after you, then you're going to have a pretty hard game to get through. So,
is it will you marry me in your future? Or maybe you do it all over again? Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula, on Brooks, across from the Montana Club.
There's always a party in Montana, whether you're going to a wedding, a football game, a concert. The Montana Party Bus can get you there safe and will take you anywhere in Montana. You can relax with friends in style, luxury, and safety. Plus, they're Montana-based for local and regional travel within Montana borders. Montana Party Bus is great for both large and small groups with a capacity of up to 30 guests. If you want to elevate your event, call them anytime, 406-200-8096. You can also visit mtpartybus.com. Travel anywhere in Montana in style with the Montana Party Bus.
So
You mentioned last year so many different blowouts. So you probably actually got to use more of your sideline hits than usual in some of those games. But any interesting ones that come to mind that maybe didn't get enough play or didn't make the broadcast at all?
yeah, it was really fun to kind of look back at my notes from last season because it was just such a special season. One that I wasn't able to get to, I ended up doing a story on it going into Frisco because of Texas. I love Texas. I went to college in Dallas. So I wanted to do a sideline hit on all the Texas guys, and I never got around to it. But who knows? Maybe I could again this year because that secondary is full of speedy guys from Texas. So, but Drew, Simeon, Coach Bapp, and Coach Owens, they're all Texas guys. And every time I would ask them about it, they love talking about it. So I never got into that. So that may be one. And then I talked to Taco a bit about, he's this all-American punt returner, but I always asked him, does Brendan Hall kind of help you? Because when you have such a great guy punting to you in practice and everything, and I never got to the sideline hit, but he just was like, I don't think people realize, iron sharpens iron, even on special teams with the two of us competing against one another. So that was really interesting. And then they have a Cats Council, which is vegan kind of meets with about 17 to 20 guys, I believe. And it's not just captains, it's guys that represent the freshmen, the sophomores, and they kind of represent their units and they come in and talk about the team. It helps them bond during the off season. I know they read a book and they take lessons from the book. So I never got around to that one as well because there was kind of so much information within that hit, but I thought that was really interesting as well. And then one more is a really interesting storyline last year was, Drew and Julius weren't ready to go to start the season. They both suffered an injury during spring ball leading into it, but they said having one another. I mean, you hear that all the time with guys who might suffer these off-season injuries or just, having a buddy to go through stuff with makes you closer with them and, helps you mentally. They both came back around the same time as well. So I wasn't able to get to that sideline hit because they were already well back by the time I never was able to get to it. But that was also another big one, them being there for one another and being able to rehab their way back to a great level.
The Texas storyline, I think, is a really fun one because Montana State, when they first, there's been so many ebbs and flows in my career covering the Big Sky Conference, but when they first sort of broke onto the national scene, they had been really solid in the 2000s, but not necessarily nationally elite. But when they first broke into sort of like that top 10 range in the early 2010s, that's when guys like Jody Owens were playing for them. And they at one point they had like 25 guys from Texas. There's the legendary recruiting story of when I think they brought like 18 guys from Texas in on a plane on a recruiting visit, and they got like 10 of those guys to commit. Denarius McGee, Jody Owens were among those guys. But that seemed to have been revived a little bit now with the Cats, especially with some of these coaches that have these Texas connections. But you're somebody that's lived in Texas and also lived in Bozeman. I know the weather is totally different, but the connection to football and the connection to community seems like there's a lot of parallels there. And you hear a lot of these guys talk about it. They say, hey, I kind of liked Bozeman because I could tell they love football up there. And that kind of reminded me of home. Do you see that parallel?
Definitely. I mean, I went to SMU, so we've gotten a lot better. Now we're in the ACC and sellouts are normal at games. But when I was even a freshman before they started getting the wheels turning down there, I mean, the crowds weren't that great. Like the atmospheres weren't amazing until they started winning. And up here, you get an atmosphere just as electric as a Friday Night Lights, which is what I went to school in Dallas. And I mean, Dallas proper, all those towns around, they have some elite players and stadiums and atmospheres that can rival probably some group of fives and some smaller schools. So, and talking with Coach Bapp and Coach Owens, that's a big thing. Once they get up here for a game day and they see, sellouts night in and night out, week in and week out, that is a huge seller. And of course, then, the championship used to be in Frisco. It'll be in Nashville these next couple of years, but that's also another recruiting tool, getting to go back to your home state. That's something you're working towards every year. But I definitely see the passion is just as strong. It's just for another team. And in talking to a lot, especially that DB room that has so many Texas guys, it's nice that they know each other and it's a familiar face. And I know that's a helpful recruiting tool as well, knowing these guys, and they're the ones who can sell it as well, better than anyone else, coming from a passionate high school fan base, coming up here and seeing these facilities, the indoor, the BAC sellouts. I think it's a very similar atmosphere and realm for sure.
Well, a lot of eyes are going to be on those guys, especially early in the season when it comes to the secondary. It's my analysis and my opinion of this team that I think that they're going to be great up front on both sides of the ball. They're going to be able to run the football. I know linebackers are young, but I think both those inside guys that returned from last year are studs, and I think they're going to have breakout years. It's the secondary that I'm really looking at, like who's going to rise. I think that Montana State's to a point now where they're just going to continue to reload. I mean, they've recruited so well. The guys that are waiting in the wings are talented. They're just inexperienced. And as you mentioned, they have such this great developmental system from the way they operate to the fact they blew everybody out last year during the regular season to the fact they got extra practice, going through all the way till January. All those things help. But the secondary, I think, is the one that has the biggest question marks. Who stood out there so far to you watching fall camp these last couple weeks?
Yeah, Coach Howe calls him Big Play Tay, Taden Gray, a Texas guy. I am so excited for him. He had a huge hit in the South Dakota game, that semifinal game to send him the championship. So I'm really excited to see him. Takari Carr is another name, super fast. I mean, all those corners are just so fast. Yeah, I mean, and then Caden Dowler, hopefully he stays healthy this entire season because we've seen him flash. I mean, he is that veteran and now a captain of that secondary. And I'm going through all of them right now, but Taki Louis-Lakepa, Danny's little brother, has been amazing. He had some big plays last year as well. I didn't know he didn't pick up football till his senior year of high school. He mentioned that in our press conference, or we had a presser with him, throughout fall camp. He was one of the players. Great personality, same mannerisms as Danny, which was really cool. One of my favorite players, especially for those post-game interviews, because he was just really great interview. But same with him. I mean, and the personalities are really great in that room as well. I think they just need the platform. They have the skill, they have the speed. Once they put it together and they benefit, they talk about it all the time. I mean, they benefit from the guys in front of them. When that D line is getting after that quarterback, it makes their job, that much easier. Same with the linebackers. So, yeah, I would say those names for sure. I'm really, really excited to see them take the field, especially I think against South Dakota State. Oregon's going to be an interesting game, one of the best FBS programs in the country. I think you might be seeing things get really put together at home with the Gold Rush atmosphere, like one against South Dakota State.
Big Sky Breakdown, proudly presented by the Bobcat Collective at Montana State. The Bobcat Collective is the NIL collective that serves Montana State University student athletes. The collective is partnered with Montana State to connect fans, alumni, businesses, and local nonprofits with Montana State student athletes. Opportunities through the collective allow student athletes to earn compensation while serving the greater Montana State University community. Sign up now for memberships and enjoy automatic entry into raffles for free tickets while supporting the bright minds at Montana State. They have multiple different membership tiers, and you can also be a one-time supporter, and you can also business partner or corporate supporter. Visit bobcatcollective.com for more. Thanks to our great friends of the Bobcat Collective for their continued support of what we got going here at the Big Sky Breakdown, as well as Skyline Sports. If you'd like to help usher in Montana State to the new age of college athletics and contribute to the Bobcat Collective, visit bobcatcollective.com. And if you go to bobcatcollective.com/Skyline, get an opportunity to get a free membership to see what they are all about. How about the quarterbacks? Do you have an opinion on them? I know that's been a place that people have been watching pretty heavily. First of all, I guess just tell us about Justin Lamson. he's the one guy I haven't seen because he was not there during spring, and I have not been able to make it over for a practice. So, what sort of skill set does he bring to the table?
Yeah, I mean, he's been great to watch live. I am really excited for this wide receiver room. That's probably the one position I'm really excited to see take the field, especially with Sturbick. Looks like he's going to have an emphasis of throwing the ball more. And Justin's throwing some darts to these wide receivers, and they're making plays as well. We've also seen him take off a few times very, very fast. I would say he's played Oregon. He's never played at Autzen Stadium, but it was his first career start, he told us, against that Bo Nix Oregon team a couple years back. So he's got some experience. I mean, he's got P4 experience for 4 years. I think it's really cool how he already has a prior relationship with Vegan, who recruited him to Wyoming at the time a few years ago. And he said, point blank, at this point in my career, I want to play for someone I respect, and that person is Vegan. So it's been really cool to see him work alongside Sturbick, the three of them together. And if there's one thing about Vegan is he knows how to coach quarterbacks. I don't think anyone should fear anything in that realm when it comes to Coach Vegan with the guys that he's been able to produce and put out to the highest level. So Justin's been really fun to watch, and it's really cool to see a new era of quarterback here in Bozeman. And yeah, they're all really looking great.
It'll be obviously, I think, a distinctly different offense. I mean, we don't have to give away too many of their secrets or whatever, but yeah, I just think you have to run a different offense if you don't have Tommy Mellott, because I mean he is your offense if you have him, and there's just not a lot of guys like him. So I think it's probably going to look a little different on Saturdays for Bobcat fans, right?
Yeah, I mean, last year the X factor was Tommy. I mean, it was the run game and Tommy. And when they loaded the box, Tommy's going to make a play, and you're just going to have to kind of. I mean, I remember we had a press conference last year, and the players were just like, I don't really know how you plan to defend us with a guy like Tommy, and that's just kind of what it seemed like when he could just rip off 70-yard runs and outrun DBs that were yards in front of him, and just he was so shifty and he just slipped away from defenses. But just like you're saying, I think it's going to have to look different. We're going to see exactly what that will be, at Oregon and against South Dakota State, and as the season progresses. But yeah, I'm really excited to see, the way it shapes out and the way the receivers are used, and the way the tight ends are used as well. Sturbick was saying you could see all three of them out there at the same time, which I think could be really fun. It's just been really fun to see kind of the way they've been doing the pass game in fall camp for sure.
Well, the one tight end that I'm so intrigued with is Rocky Lencioni, because he's such a great athlete in high school, Bozeman High. He's also, I mean, a really smart guy. I mean, he had Ivy League offers and stuff like that coming out of high school. I know he really considered Ivy League. I think his dad played in an Ivy League once upon a time. What do you think has allowed him to sort of rapidly rise? Because there was a kind of a question what position he was going to play. Seems like he's really found a home at tight end.
Yeah, Rocky was a state champion at wide receiver. Kellen Harrison, Gatorade Player of the Year at quarterback. That was my first fall here covering those state champion Hawks. So it's been really cool to see him grow. Redshirt year last year, and then kind of, pave his own way this year. They actually made a joke about all the Bozeman tight ends as well. They just keep producing. There's 4 in that room right now. So tight end U is what Rylan Schlepp called Bozeman. But yeah, I'm really excited. I think, it's kind of just that hard work, that blue collar mentality that these guys from Montana have. And I think there's opportunity throughout the whole team. I think that was the biggest difference between last year's fall camp and this year's. People really knew their role last year. The younger guys were learning from those veterans that have been in that program for years. This year, I mean, it was wide open for a lot of positions, and it was about outworking the guy next to you in that competitive spirit, but still, loving one another, loving your teammates. I think, for Rocky, he mentioned just, putting on the weight that tight end needs, moving from receiver to tight end, studying the playbook, being behind guys like Ryan Lonergan and Rohan Jones, who were the 2 starters last year. And then he said learning, from Hunter Province and Rylan Schlepp. I think that was what he said as well. So it's kind of just learning from the guys before him, hitting the weight room, and making the most of your opportunity when you do get it, for sure.
A lot of reshuffling on the coaching staff too, and I mean that's something that has been pretty seamless. Under Brent Vegan, he's already had what 4 defensive coordinators in 5 years, and 3 offensive coordinators now with Pete Sturbeck coming in, and it just seems like they have a formula for okay, you're going to move here, you're going to move here, we're going to just do this thing, and they don't seem to ever miss a beat. But what have you thought of? I guess two-part question. What have you thought of some of the new coaches, and also what do you just think of just the reshuffling? It seems like it's gone pretty seamlessly. Again, I guess we'll tell here in a couple weeks, but it seems like it's gone pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. On the defensive side, they didn't lose too much, but they completely shifted. But I think there was a lot of trust in those opportunities that saw the guys moving around. And yeah, I'm really excited to see Coach Howe as the fully the defensive coordinator this season. He was someone who really talked about, whether it be him, some of the coaches, some of the players, everyone's talking about who's leaving, but no one's talking about who's staying. We're going to kind of prove it this season to show you who stayed, why they stayed, what we're still set out to prove. So excited for that. And then on the offensive side, I mean, it's been really fun at fall camp. Coach Firm, who coaches the running backs, he is super active, when they're doing those drills and they're trying to hold the ball, and he'll try and really, I guess one of those, I guess it's like kind of like a lacrosse stick where they try and, push out the ball and try and hold it. So he gets really competitive with the guys on trying to, knock the ball out and really teach them ball security. Great personality. Same with Coach Smith, who's now in charge of the offensive line. I just remember talking to Titan Fleischman coming into camp. He was explaining how knowledgeable he is about it and how much energy he brings to that room. And they're doing burpees like every single day after practice, after fall camp. So that stood out to me. I mean, he knows that they're a bit younger. They got a couple veterans in that room, but he's really shaping them up. And we all talk about it. He loves the word violence, and I think that's what you need when you're in the trenches. So yeah, that's been really great. And like I said, I'm really excited to see Coach Jerbick's offense, just to see kind of the RPO game and whatnot. So I'm really excited to see how this shapes up. Like you're saying, it seems like every year there's a bit of turnover with coordinators, with shifting, and all of that. But I think just like the players, the coaching staff is a team. And that's the biggest thing I've asked them, especially during spring ball. How is it working with one another? And that's kind of seemed seamless. And, they're a family as well. So I think that they've been all working together really well to put together a great product for Saturdays.
Last thing, then, what do you think is the next sort of step for them to put a bow on fall camp here and then move into the? I mean, talk about a daunting opener, right? I mean, you got to go to one of like the 10 hardest places to play in the country. You're playing against a team that was the number one seed in the college football playoff last year, so no, you're going to get started pretty quick here if you're Montana State. But I mean, what are sort of the final steps now? I know that they did captains today and sort of starting game prep. So, what's the next week and a half or so look like, both from a coverage perspective, but also just Montana State transitioning out of fall camp into the first game week?
Yeah, definitely. I think they got their first official practice in today. Classes started yesterday. So they're fully into game prep. I would imagine it's probably, like you're saying, Oregon's a beast to start the season against, but it'll test you right away, I think, if you find the positive in it. And, last year they beat an FBS team, and I think the biggest takeaway I was talking to Coach Howe a couple of days ago. I asked, I get it. It's kind of two different types of FBS teams you're going up against, but anything you took away from that game? And he said, we learned that game, our team was going to fight. They were going to fight that entire season, and they fought for 14 games or whatever it may be after that. And I really took away from that because I was like, yeah, they came out there, and despite, a couple turnovers, whatnot in the first half, they punched him in the mouth and they said, we're going to win this game. So I think, if they walk away with a win or a loss, it's going to be that. It's going to be, can this team fight? What's the identity of this team? They're so young. We found out what that identity was of that Montana State team pretty quickly last year. So I think that's going to be a big thing. The depth chart will come out on Monday, which all of us media members are very excited about to see how things have kind of shaped up with the young team with a lot of opportunity. And then from a coverage perspective, just a couple more packages from my end. So a couple more stories on the captains. We start our TV show, The Bobcat Insider. I'm alongside Keaton Galogly on Tuesday. So that'll be really fun to start that up again. That's some of my favorite conversations I get to have with the players are in that realm in our studio, and they get to kind of leave their bubble and come into our media member bubble at KBZK, which is really fun. And then, yeah, just shipping over to Eugene. For me, I'll be on the sidelines as a reporter, kind of, over the shoulder camera stuff. And then I'm really excited for Gold Rush because I'll be back to my sideline reporting duties for that game, which is the highlight of my job. So yeah, I think that's what it kind of looks like for all of us.
Well, going to be super fun, and you can follow all of Grace's great content at montanasports.com. You can also follow her on social media. Is there a way to find? I know obviously the coaches show, et cetera, is on television. Are those archived anywhere? Those people can go see them.
Yes, so they air on Wednesdays and Thursdays, like you're saying, and then they are archived on the Montana Sports YouTube right after they air and the montanasports.com. So they live there. Yeah, so every episode since we've kind of taken over that deal lives there. I was kind of going back and looking at the old ones from last season. But yeah, that'll run through basketball season. So it's really, really fun.
Well, it's awesome. I always just record them, so I'm old, so I just got them on my Hulu Live, my stuff or whatever. But it's great. I can find them on YouTube. That's a lot easier. Grace, looking forward to this throughout the season. But thanks so much for taking some time with us here today.
Thank you so much.